Book 2. The Rise of the Necromancers. Jade has claimed her first town, shaped its people into puppets of her will, and awakened the hunger that will never leave her again. Now, she is no longer alone. Others will hear whispers of Evernight, rumors of a town that fell overnight, a place where the dead do not stay dead. And some will seek her out, not in fear, but in awe, yearning to understand her power, willing to bow before her and learn the art of controlling death itself. Chapter 1. The Call of the Damned. It begins with the first disciple, a wanderer drawn to Evernight's unnatural stillness, standing at its gates as the sun rises and realizing that the town does not breathe like it once did. Jade watches from the shadows, evaluating the stranger, sensing something familiar in their presence, an emptiness, a hunger, a potential waiting to be shaped. Their first conversation is not a welcome, but a test.
You see them, don't you?
Jade murmurs, gesturing to the still bodies, the hollow stares, the eerie perfection of the town's motions. The stranger does not flinch, does not turn away. Instead, they step forward.
Teach me.
Jade just smiles, because soon there will be more like him. Soon the world will whisper her name. Soon she will not just wield power alone, she will command an army of necromancers. Chapter 2. The Price of Curiosity, the Rumors of Evernight. The whispers had spread beyond the town's decayed streets, carried by trembling lips, merchants too afraid to pass through, and lone travelers who had stumbled upon the horror that rested behind Evernight's gates. A town of walking corpses, a woman who controlled them all, a place where no one who entered ever returned. Some called her a witch, others a monster, but all agreed on one thing. Evernight was cursed. And yet, it was human nature to chase the forbidden. So they came. Warriors seeking glory, thieves hoping to steal her secrets, scholars desperate to unravel her power, and mercenaries craving coin for ending her reign. But they never left. Not alive, not free. Slaughter at the gates. Jade stood in silence, watching the first wave of fools march into Evernight, blades drawn, eyes filled with arrogance. She let them enter. She let them see the town exactly as it was, lifeless, hollow, movements too smooth, expressions too blank. She let them hesitate, their confidence faltering as the unnatural truth settled deep into their bones. And then she struck. Some fell to her blade, their souls torn from their flesh before their bodies could even collapse, their life rushing into her with the overwhelming euphoria she now craved, like a breath itself. Others fell to her disciples, the lesser necromancers who had begun to understand the addiction, their kills sloppy but thrilling, each victim feeding their hunger for the rush, the dominance, the control. It was never just a battle, it was a feast. And the few who felt the pull, the ones who lingered with wide eyes, feeling the whisper of necromancy inside them, Jade spared them. She offered them a choice: bend the knee and learn from her, or be consumed like the rest. And some chose the hunger, Evernight's expansion. The town was no longer just a graveyard of puppets. It was a sanctuary, a throne for the damned, a temple where death was not feared but mastered. The world had tried to silence her, to erase her existence before she could become more than legend. But now, warriors feared her. Now, rulers whispered her name behind closed doors. Now, those who craved power sought her out, desperate to learn, willing to bow before her for even a fraction of what she had discovered. And soon, Evernight would be only the first kingdom. Jade was no longer just the woman in the crypt. She was the High Necromancer, and her reign had only just begun. Chapter 3: The Taint in the Wilds. Necromancy spreads, a shadow across Icarus. Jade's reach extended beyond Evernight, her disciples drifting into the forgotten places: bogs, swamps, damp ruins, abandoned crypts, anywhere the world had chosen to discard. They were not welcome in the cities, not yet, but they did not need them. They needed the wilds, the places where death was common, where the rot of centuries was untouched, where bodies were buried deep but never truly gone. And there, in the shadows, necromancy thrived. The practice begins. The disciples were hungry, their craving for souls and control growing stronger, their minds shifting with every kill, every binding, every thrill that came from bending another body beneath their will. Some mastered the harvesting, learning to take souls without a blade, without a fight, pulling them from dying bodies with nothing but a whisper and a command. Others perfected the reanimation, discovering that the secret to necromancy was not just control, but permanence. A well-bound corpse did not fade. A well-controlled puppet did not rot. And as they practiced, as their numbers grew, as the distant echoes of their rituals reached Evernight, Jade knew. Her disciples were no longer just learners. They were necromancers now. The first signs of fear. Rumors began to shift, no longer just whispers of Evernight, but of the wild places, of the lost villages where the dead refused to stay buried. Travelers spoke of abandoned settlements with figures moving in the fog, of a natural silence in places that should have been filled with life, of corpses that walked, not bound by decay, but by purpose. The rulers felt it too. The change in the air, the creeping influence of something twisting beneath their feet, threading through their borders, slowly infecting their world. Jade's necromancers were spreading, and soon they would no longer need to hide in the darkness. Final chapter. The murky South falls to the dead. The world watches and fears. The whispers were no longer just rumors. The murky South, once a land of swamps, ruins, forgotten villages, was now something else entirely. There was no denying it. It belonged to the Necromancers now. Rulers spoke of unnatural stillness, of settlements turned into havens for the dead, of towns where the living were only there to serve the ones who had already fallen. No armies marched into its depths. No banners claimed its land. No kingdom dared send its forces into the dark. Because every soldier that entered never returned. And those who did not come back alive. They returned different, their eyes hollow, their bodies stiff, their souls gone from their flesh, their voices speaking, not for themselves, but for the one who had claimed them. And every time it happened, Jade smiled. The Necromancers, a kingdom of the forgotten. Evernight was no longer alone. The wildlands had become theirs, the swamps their training grounds, the ruins their temples, the places where others saw death, rot, emptiness now thrived under their rule. The Necromancers were a faction now, a force not whispered about in secrecy, but feared openly in the halls of power. And Jade? She was their high necromancer, their queen, their god among the dead, the first to taste true control and the one who would ensure it never faded. The murky South did not need walls, did not need fortresses. Its defense was simple. If you entered, you became part of it.